his chance at immortality hangs in the balance.
Now, we have had comebacks occur before in best of sevens, but it's very rare. I mean, at this point in time for Serral, he has such an array of different ways he can play, and if he loses one of the games, it's fine. The series continues. He could all in. He could keep doing what he's already doing. He could try something completely crazy we haven't seen before. So this is going to be one of the hardest things ever for Stats to take on.
Yes, indeed. I want to say that he can do it, Tasteless. I want to believe here still. He did bring Serral to 7 games, of course, in that beautiful GSL Versaworld Finals, but Serral got the best of him. Stats, what do you do now?
We've seen Stargate openings here. One time a proxy, another time very modest, just in the main. We also had the double Stargate in game number 3. But so far it hasn't done anything. Are we going to see a Stargate again? Does Stats decide to discard that coming in here and do something a little bit crazier? I don't know, but you have to be thinking, you know, in this series, each game you're getting a read on your opponent. What works? What doesn't? This is Stats' last chance. He has to start winning here now, so I'm very curious to see what kind of build order he's going to show us here tonight.
Yeah, it could be time to really spice it up. We're going to see in just a moment what his tech choice is. It is the Stargate once again. Staying with the tried and the true. Stargate, that is your macro opener. Hell, that's a lot of times the way that you open up, even to deceive your opponent, pushes Overlords around with that Phoenix and do something sneaky afterwards. We're going to see what Stats is up to.
Let's also keep in mind that there's been a few moments where Stats has miscontrolled either his Oracle or his few Adepts and loses them. Now, in a lot of StarCraft 2 games, that's fine, you can recover. Against Serral, it does not appear to be the case. So let's keep our eyes on those Adepts and see how much damage they do and if they can actually get out in one piece.
All right, the first Adept coming down right now, running past the Queen just slightly, sends its shade in. Don't know if they let that one finish. No. Does cancel, continuing to scout a bit.
We also have a Phoenix speed made for the first unit out of the Stargate, so no deviation here with the Stargate build. Now, when you see a Stargate opening, it doesn't necessarily mean much of anything other than he's going to have a few air units. He can still bring the game into so many different directions. The advantage of having a Stargate out, besides being able to snipe a few drones with the Oracle, is you can pretty much scout the Zerg, you can monitor what they're doing, and then try to figure out how you want to react.
Well, he's going to push away this Overlord for now. The Overlord scouts the double gas here in the natural, so to Serral, everything looks normal.
So we see these links coming up right now, and so far so good. I mean, a very, very modest game. I'm not entirely sure what Serral wants to do either here. We can't get a good read on either of these guys.
Okay, well, now we see what the plan is here for Stats. He's going for double Stargate play again. And you know what? It didn't work in the previous game, but he did get good damage done.
So here comes that Oracle now, moving out across the map. Again, this can go either way. We mostly want to watch and see, is this Oracle actually going to be picked off? Is there going to be any kind of mistakes as far as control? And here we go. That Overlord taking a little bit of damage as the Oracle continues to rotate around.
Yeah, and Serral, so far, he doesn't show any signs of knowing exactly what this build is from Stats. Stats flying into the main base, going to see how many drones he can get. Oh, very quick morph right there, and it looks like none?
Nothing. Doesn't lose anything. So far, no drones killed. Nothing lost air-wise here. The Phoenixes are continuing to be pulled out here in pairs as he's going to try to put a little bit more pressure on. Now, let's keep in mind, Game 3 was kind of weird, right? It almost seemed like there wasn't a major event, and it almost looks as if really Serral outplayed Stats so much that Stats suddenly realized, oh my God, I am actually so behind. I didn't do anything. So maybe he's going to be a little bit more aggressive this time around with the Stargate opening and really try to get into Serral's face.
Well, it looks like this is actually, strategically speaking, a little bit better for Stats than in that previous game where he went for double Stargate Phoenix. Serral's making a Roach Horn. The Roaches won't be very good against the Phoenixes. It doesn't seem like he really knows what's going on. The third base for Stats coming up pretty quickly as well. We're going to have to see how much damage he can do. And now, finally, Serral knows what's going on.
Okay, Phoenix is now coming down once again. Stats really trying to be cautious. He doesn't want to do anything crazy with these. And we see the double robo here. So Stats so far in this game is really saying he's learned everything that he's made a mistake of this time around, and he's going to have a much cleaner opening. And he's hoping to bring this into that super late game and be able to match Serral, possibly taking him out with a push.
Well, it seems like he's probably done with his Phoenix production. Let's see how much damage he can accumulate through flying around to the different bases. Multiple spores going up absolutely everywhere. Serral dogging these Phoenixes with his queens, chasing them around, trying to minimize damage.
Okay, the Phoenixes continue to take out a few drones. I gotta say, so far, this is looking pretty good here for Stats. I mean, this is really what we've been waiting on. Again, if Stats loses it here, this is a huge blow to South Korea. South Korea has never not been the most dominant force in StarCraft 1 and StarCraft 2, and Serral is here to change history.
All right, change history. He's already done that, I think.
Make history, I guess, not change it. He's not going back in time, you're right. But yeah.
Well, right now, these Phoenixes still looking for some damage. Serral, with his good defense, getting up into his Hydralisk play, getting up into those Banelings, as well as taking his fourth. But Stats producing nicely.
And so with the fourth base coming here, it's still fairly even. The Phoenix is coming here, nice little snipe on this queen. He might try to get some drones as well, maybe some overlords. And he's staying in between the second and third base because you can see the minerals pointed at the Phoenix. It's easy to go in between those areas and do a little bit of damage.
Yeah, and Coca showing us only 4 drones killed so far, so that's a little bit underwhelming for the 2 Stargate Phoenixes, but he is picking off a few other units here and there, not really losing a lot of Phoenixes either.
Okay, a few more drones have been taken out. And we're now seeing Stats really develop into, I would say, what is probably the most standard, solid way to play a PvZ. He's going to try to get all that tech up. We see the Templar Archives is finishing. We'll most likely see Storm coming up here. Immortals are going to continue to grow in number. We have Zealot Legs on the way. Meanwhile, Serral, always staying one expansion ahead, is trying to drone up as much as humanly possible, trying to get enough of an economy going that he can match whatever Stats is going to come out here with.
Yeah, he's making quite a few Hydras as his upgrades finish as well. Morphing a few Banelings in here. We could see him start putting on some pressure pretty soon, and considering Psystorm is really nowhere near done, it's going to be a little bit tricky. Here he goes with those Banelings into the third base.
We see the Banes coming in. 5 probes killed off, and the Oracle cleans up the last one. Now, that's not exactly efficient for that many Banelings to come in to only get those probes, but it's something. Also, with Stats flying over this 4th base, we haven't seen any drones mine there, because if they did get there, the Phoenix would just pick them up and kill them.
Yeah, but with these Hydras out, he's actually pushing them back, kills off some of these Phoenixes, and he's definitely got enough units now to protect this base. Look at that, instantly droning it up. He's near 80 workers right now, but Stats isn't doing too shabby himself. The one thing I'm afraid about, those swarm hosts coming out of Serral once again.
You're totally right, Artosis. It seems like Stats has really struggled to actually have any kind of answer to those swarm hosts, and it's in part because Serral's been so good at positioning them with these guerrilla attacks, sending the Locust in, and then running back out without really receiving any damage. But I think this time around, if we get a shot of the middle of the map here, I think Stats is actually going to push, and he's going to try to initiate before Serral can set up what he wants to do.
Yeah, if you wait for him to start launching those Locusts at you, it's very hard to get the pressure off. Now Stats out here with his entire army. We have his first-person view right now. He is playing for his life here in the World Championships. Moving around, he's going to be able to clear some of this creep, kind of patrolling, looking for any units to pick off.
Okay, he's slowly edging in here. He wants to be very cautious. There is a Warp Prism on the move. We don't quite see it because we're in first person here, but there's a Warp Prism going into the main. He wants to warp in an army, cause Serral to try to run back and defend, and then he's going to start attacking these expansions. And great control here with these Phoenixes, taking out those Banelings as well.
Yeah, all right, the Banelings do get taken out, but we saw a drop overlord being made. Definitely we're going to see more harassment as well. We have Warpins of Zealots into the main base as Serral tries to attack Stats. Stats is doing some counter harass.
Okay, nicely done. He's actually hitting those drones. He's going to set up his 4th base. Let's see if he actually decides to push in here. Oh my God, but here come those Locusts hitting in this angle, and they're going right for that Nexus. Arms coming down here to try to save it, and it looks like he might just barely be able to do it in time.
Oh, he does look like he's gonna save that Nexus. All right, in the meantime, he did get 8 drones from all that harassment. Some great multitasking, as we saw there from Stats. And Serral just going to rebuild. He is maxed out.
Okay, Stats is on the move here. He's going to try to attack in. The Swarmos are just to the left of this. If he could actually catch those Swarmos, that would be huge!
Yeah, the Phoenix is getting right up on top of this. It looks like he is going to catch at least a couple of them, but in the meantime, he's got to look out. There is a Baneling drop headed for his mineral lines.
Okay, and that's coming in right now. I don't think that Stats sees it. The Banelings are unloading, and so many workers are being killed off.
17 probes, huge economic damage dealt to Stats there. That one really hurt.
You can see now, Serral going to try to come out here with a little bit of an attack. Now, Serral is maxed out, but this is sort of normal. This is how the ebb and flow of the matchup PvZ. Stats has a little bit more time to max out, but from here we should see Serral try to leverage his position, start poking in at different angles, and trying to do some damage.
Yeah, he's continuing to make this very fearsome Hydraling Bane army, but Stats hasn't faltered yet. Some great Psy Storms going down. Those Banelings rolling through the army, set off all those Immortal Shields, but these Psy Storms from Stats are amazing.
Those Psy Storms so perfect, it seems like Stats may be able to take out this initial expansion. We have the Locust coming in from behind, but I don't know if Serral can defend.
All right, he needs to hit some good Psy Storms here still, and down they go. The Locust jumping in, but Stats dealing massive damage, and to send the probe to try to block it, and Stats unable to do so. So just going to go into this main base and maybe lightly harass those mineral patches.
So, we have that. We have another game here where I don't know where it's going to go, but I'm really wondering about some kind of all-in here. It just seems like if you're the Zerg and you're up this much and you just need one more game, you could absolutely take a risk, and if it doesn't work, you still have wiggle room to try other stuff.
Yeah, it is true, but momentum is a real thing in StarCraft. What if Stats blocks your all-in here? What if suddenly he regains the confidence that you stole from him in those first 3 games? Things could get out of control.
We see the wall-in beginning to get set up here. Nothing out of the ordinary so far. We'll have a much better idea of what the Protoss is going to do when the Cybernetics core finishes. That's where you start to have a branch in what kind of build order you can go for.
Well, every game so far it has been Stargate. Are we going to see that again? It seems like his most successful games have been these 2 Stargate Phoenix games. He's done fantastically with that, but like you've been saying, maybe Serral will all in. Maybe he'll look at this and say, oh, Stats thinks he can beat me with that multiple times. Let's try something crazy against it.
It's interesting because the game that we just saw Stats win, I mean, he was not wavering. He basically said, no, I got it. I figured out what Serral's doing. I'm going to do the same thing I was trying before, and I'm going to make it work. And it did work. So there's also the chance that Stats simply says, I have one blueprint. I have one way of doing this, and I'm going to do it no matter what. And that's not the case now, because this build is now deviating. This is what we were waiting for, to see what kind of tech was going to come down here.
Well, that is definitely a big deal. We are getting out of Stargate territory and into the Twilight. So this is generally going to be a very aggressive build from a Protoss player. That Twilight, you're going to get either, it could be a more macro-oriented quick Archon drop, but it could also be something very aggressive, like an Adept Glaives all-in.
Oh, sure, certainly. I mean, when you see something like this coming, what it says is that he wants to punish a player who's trying to play an economy game. You want to come in and blindside them and suddenly have an attack going on, and they're basically too busy making tech buildings, making workers, and things slip out of control very quickly. They're going to have a lot of workers go down, and usually you can set up a killing blow from there.
Yeah, now a Robo is being made. We'll see if he adds any sort of Templar building. The Dark Shrine coming up. A wise man once said, when behind Dark Shrine, but this isn't just for Dark Templars, it's for Archons and dropping as well.
So we saw the Archon drop used early on, but let's touch upon this one more time. When you have Archons with a Warp Prism, because they're all shields and because you can be so abusive with picking up Archons in a Warp Prism, as long as you only lose the Warp Prism and the 2 Archons, you pretty much always do some amount of damage, and you don't really receive any. The shields eventually regen, and you're in good shape.
Well, Bling's poking in towards the front there. This Archon drop going to be ready relatively soon. The Dark Shrine takes a long time to finish, but Stats has this timed out well. I'm excited to see what type of damage he can get done with this. Sometimes you can even catch them off guard with those Dark Templar.
Yeah, that's true. You can always try to come in there with the Dark Templar and maybe gun down a hatchery and then pick up and make the Archons later on. There's a lot of ways to play this, and there's a whole series of different angles. Oh, hold on a sec. That Link just spots that Warp Prism. So already I think Serral's going to be ready, or at least aware that something's coming his way.
Well, let's see where he has detection right now. He's making a spore, but that does not always stop Dark Templar. Let's see, he's going to warp in those first initial 4.
Oh, he doesn't see it. You're totally right, though, Artosis. Sometimes you'll see them just click on the spore and kill it, and then the Dark Templars are back to being invisible, and that's what we're going to see right here as he is hitting that spore right now.
In fact, units come up to fight them, and the Dark Templar turn around bravely and assault the Queens and Lings, chasing them back. It looks like he will not get that hatchery kill, but will start his harassment.
Yeah, he saw that Overseer was being made over there and decided instead he's going to try to do as much damage as he can before the Overseer gets over here. And as that Overseer is there, he's going to pick up, relocate, and then begin the Archon harass.
That was really nicely done. Great micro overall. Look at how much damage he's already done with these 4 Dark Templars. And now that they're turning into Archons, the harassment is not going to stop.
So from here, Serral needs to continue to deflect and defend as he tries to grow and develop. Stats is getting his 3rd base. There's not really any easy way for Serral to try to attack that with these Archons coming in here like this.
And look at that, those Archons picking off a few roaches here and there, going to the main base now, chasing this Queen back. Stats on a rampage right now with this War Prism.
Okay, so far so good. Doing some good damage here. That Archon getting very low, almost loses it. He does pick that up. He may try to relocate over to where the 3rd base is for Serral.
Yeah, he's flying around. He's got to let the shields come back a little bit as well. Like you said, you know, the Archons can take a beating, but they will regenerate quickly. Drops off at this 3rd base here, and it looks like he's not ready, but a great transfusion to save that Queen.
Yeah, one problem right now for Stats is that one of these Archons lost all the shields and the other has a decent amount, so he's got to be careful. If he loses that, it's really bad. We see Serral already completely and totally prepared. Stats is trying to dodge the volleys from the roaches by picking them up as the animation is happening, but this is pretty tricky. I mean, he hasn't really done that much. Stats hasn't.
No, you know, he's gotten some damage here and there, but certainly Serral is not crippled by any means. He's still producing well. He's getting up into his Swarmhost tech, but Stats continues to keep that pressure on. Serral looking to finish off this series as he's played it out so far with those Swarmhosts.
That's right. He does not want to deviate. He says if it's not, if it's not broken, you don't need to fix it. So he'll come in here and try that once more. Again, though, his Stats seem to have adapted very well in Game 4. Like, he was not phased at all and basically swatted down everything that Serral threw at him and then closed it out with a push.
Well, here's the question, though. Does he know about these Swarmhosts that are in the way? I would say no, he doesn't. All of his vision really has been through this drop. He hasn't seen that Infestation Pit. It was very well placed by Serral. So if he doesn't know about that, will he move out? Well, he answers me right there with a move out.
So he's coming out. Now, it's much better to have Swarmhosts when you're trying to attack their opponent's base and harass them. They're not exactly ideal for defense because you can always run away and then just hit from a different angle.
Yeah, this is a very strong attack coming out as well. Serral not with a very big army at the moment. If he gets a very good engagement with these Locusts, maybe he can flank or come in from behind, pick off an Archon or something like that, it'll definitely help out, but this is a scary army from Stats.
Okay, he's opened up that ramp area. You can see Serral is set up. He's kind of waiting to see, okay, is Stats actually going to move in or what? He sent the Hallucinated Phoenix in there to basically scout out and get an idea of what's going on, and Stats decides to rotate down here towards the bottom at 6 o'clock.
Little Ling counterattack going across the map. There is a cannon here, so shouldn't be too much of a problem. Stats seeing it instantly does do a small warp in, and here come the Locusts.
Okay, some force fields come down to try to sandbag any progress made by that ground army, as he really doesn't want to have to engage these Locusts unless he has to. And the Locusts now coming down here to connect. Great Warp Prism micro here by Stats.
Yeah, very well done. Nice juggling. Turns around and fights. Serral running for his life right now. Gets up to this choke, and Stats turns around as well.
Every time those Locusts come out, it's a little while before the Swarmhost is ready with more. So what Stats is trying to do is get the best engagement, and then as Serral is trying to retreat and make more units, he wants to try to come in there and do some damage of his own.
Right now, Serral is doubling down on his tech. More Swarmhosts, more Roaches on the way. Stats still microing around, seeing if he can pick off anything, but it looks like he's going to turn around for now while he waits for Storm.
And here comes the 4th base here for Stats. Now, it seems like Stats hasn't really taken any kind of a beating, right? He's getting his Storm up here. We're waiting to see if these Locusts can come out, but oh, this is actually a great play. If he can get some more of these Locusts, or these Swarmhosts rather, this would be huge.
And look at that, you force them to launch and you just pick up your Archons, you run away with the rest of your army. Well done, but Serral, no slouch himself, doesn't launch all of his Locusts, so he still has some offensive potential with this army.
Yeah, the mini games going on between these two players is so cool to see. And look, the Locusts really are not able to do anything. They have half-life, not long enough to keep them in the game. But the next wave is going to come in here, and it seems like Serral actually is going to try to come in here and maybe chip away at this third base.
All right, Psystorm just finished up right now. Let's see if he does throw any of those very crucial storms down. Some nice force fields, picking off a few units, but good biles connect right there from Serral.
Yeah, very intelligently, Serral backed off. And use those force fields in some ways against the Protoss. Some of the army getting stuck over there. But Stats is going to rotate around. He's going to try to get some more of these swarm hosts here. Great storm.
Yeah, good force field there as well. The Locusts get launched out. Some storms going down on the Roach Ravager. Serral microing back. He's trying to not get hit by too many immortal shots here while whittling down the Zealot count of Stats.
Oh, there's really not anywhere to escape to up here. He's scrambling. But as Stats continues to pursue this is going to be a lot of Ravagers and Roaches that could be picked up. Meanwhile, an attack down here at the bottom. Stats trying to hit this fresh base of Serral's.
Oh, but look at that micro from Serral. He's trying to bait those Zealots away into the Roaches. Stats, though, wisely turns around, doesn't want to waste this counter-harassment force.
As the game goes on, Stats seems to be where he wanted to. He's gotten everything set up. He has all that tech. He's got Psystorm. He's making his fourth base, and now he's pushing. Now in Game 4, we saw this was the moment that Serral fell.
Yeah, now can Stats do it again? Can he make this a pattern of being able to knock out this type of play with the Hive finishing up? We're going to have more options coming up for Serral shortly. Oh, some very good force fields. Serral with a bit of a mistake there, launches some biles, but loses a few Ravagers.
Looks like we've got a counterattack here with these Roaches, interested in trying to deny this fourth base. Meanwhile, Stats, again, spilling in with these Zealots. Serral has to defend this location as well.
A lot of Psystorms coming down. Those Locusts doing near no damage to the army of Stats. It looks like Stats finally getting something done, and I think he's going to kill the fourth base as well.
Stats with a beautiful formation is coming in here to try to get the killing move off. That base at the bottom has fallen. Psystorm's blanketing this entire area. It looks like Serral might lose the game.
Yeah, it really does. He's losing so much, but the counterattack is still going on. The third base of Stats under fire, but GG. Score is 3-2. Serral on match point for the rest of this series. But Stats, he's starting to gain that momentum. Serral has to be wondering, what strategy will Stats pull out next?
I am so curious, because the fact that Serral, each game is so similar to the one before, and that's unusual, especially for a finals, the two Starcraft 2 pros, but they both seem to be committed that they really do have the best way of approaching this matchup, and there's no need for tricks. There's no need for deception. You just go in and you do it better. You want to be faster. You want to produce more and cover all your bases, cover all your loose ends, come out with a win.
Well, as smart as that sounds, I kind of want to see some tricks and deception coming up here from one of these guys. You know, they're finding out so much about each other, but this nonstop brute force battle of them barely bending out of their styles, just showing off how strong they are. It might behoove one of them to do something sneaky to try to pick up a quick victory.
Yeah, I mean, if Stats wins here, it's actually tied up. We're going to go to the final game, which would be crazy, and Stats might actually have a reverse sweep, which, again, we cast a lot of StarCraft guys. You just never have that happen.
It is a rare thing indeed, no question about that. And if Stats does that, I mean, he is going to be a hero back home in South Korea. But first, we have to see what's he going to do, a Stargate.
So this is a rematch of GSL versus the World, where Serral actually managed to win this series 4-3. And when that happened, the #1 thing trending on the news in South Korea, if you search for it, it was on Naver, which is like Korean Google basically, was that a Korean lost to a non-Korean. And all the Koreans on the message boards were saying, all right, we need to step up our game. This is unacceptable. Now, we're having this happen again here. There's just so much pressure really for Stats. It's hard to find any country that's as good as at anything as Korea is at StarCraft.
Yeah, I would argue that it just does not exist. Their reign of domination has been thorough. Never expected this day to come, but happy that it's here where Serral really can challenge for that #1 spot. And look, already a very nice scout. He gets those 2 lings in, scouts exactly what's going on. In the meantime, a single adept in the base of Serral.
So far, everything pretty ordinary. We have that Phoenix coming out with an Oracle behind it. We see Serral setting up that third base. Again, guys, nothing looks really cheesy. Nothing seems to be deceptive. They just want to play straight up standard StarCraft.
Yeah, now what is the next tech step here for Stats. With the Zerg player, you are normally the reactive player. You're kind of sitting back, trying to figure out what your opponent is doing, and absorbing that so that you can grow larger and larger on the map, quite literally, and take them out in the later game. Oh, a second Stargate once again from Stats.
Okay, now we've seen him tinker with this, but never do anything crazy or dramatic with it. He just goes around and tries to keep pressure and bully the Zerg. The games that we've seen Stats win, he pretty much has Psystorm, Immortals. He has all the bases basically covered. He's deflected the Baneling drops or the Ling counter attacks. And then he pushes, and he just has the right surface area where nothing the Zerg can do is going to work. So there is the opportunity here. You can do this in pretty much all the matchups to try to really do a very precise attack right in the mid game and interrupt that moment, basically stopping the game from getting where it would be.
Yeah, indeed. Now, it is important to note that Serral spent money to get Overlord speed rather early on, so he's going to get a solid scout of these Stargates before Stats is ready for him to know. That's really going to help Serral in properly countering this build order and properly countering this strategy and not losing many drones.
Exactly. I mean, in a game like Starcraft, you need to see, if you can find out what your opponent's doing, a lot of times you can counter it. This is what makes this game different from so many other strategy games historically, is it is incomplete information. You can hide stuff. And a lot of times you can even trick your opponent. You can give him a red herring. Starcraft is also a game about lying and deception.
Well, he's running his Phoenixes away, but finally the Overlord does spot them. Serral now knows what's going on. And I gotta say, Tasteless, you say it's a game of incomplete information. It always has been, but sometimes it feels like when I'm watching Serral that he has complete information. And he reacts so well. Look at this, additional spores going up, extra queens being made. He's really getting ready for these Phoenixes.
Okay, here come those Phoenixes now, and I don't think they're really gonna do the damage that Stats is looking for. If the queens are already here to basically deflect this.
Yeah, the Phoenixes flying around, they see those queens. You're not going to fly into that, that's for sure. Flying across, going towards the third base. We'll see if anything's there. In the meantime, of course, getting up into his double robo.
Okay, that double robo coming up here, and now the Phoenixes have come in. They do not get that one queen, or the one Overlord, excuse me, over there. He's going to try to fly into the main instead, see if he can't pick off any drones.
Serral is serious about his defense here. Look at that, 3 spores and a queen in the main base. Still picks off some drones. I mean, if you have this many Phoenixes, you're always going to get some damage, but you don't want to lose them too early.
It's interesting because when you see a player invest in these Phoenixes, they really do have to do some damage. You can't invest in it and then nothing happens. So each of these drone kills is so important. And so far, so good. That's what he was looking for. But behind this, Stats is going to get more and more Immortals so he can actually combat a Zerg ground army.
Yeah, and that is what Serral's building up to right now. He has the Baneling Nest on the way. He has the Hydralisk Den on the way. That's what Stats expects to see. That's what he expects to play against. He just needs to slow Serral down enough that he has his Psystorm ready, he has his Immortals, his Charge, his Gateways, his economy all together.
A few Lings coming in here. Again, we saw in the earlier games he attempted to snipe those sentries, but we're not having anything like that right now. And really what Stats is doing, he's beginning to pay off those Phoenixes. He's getting the drones, he's getting the kills. I'm really liking this game for Stats.
Yeah, he's only a few workers behind right now. Look at that, 15 drones already killed off, a couple Overlords as well. But Serral's getting into a nice unit composition, and he's getting ready for his deadly Swarm Host play again.
Okay, another big kill there. These Phoenixes, it seems like Serral's really struggling with just the position that they're in. You have to have your queens split up correctly. And because there's so many Phoenixes, one of them can tank some damage while the rest will end up taking out these workers.
Yeah, he keeps harassing those gas workers as well, very importantly. Now, he saw that there was an infestation pit, but it is not for Swarm Hosts. Serral is rushing up the tech tree right now. It looks like he's going to go for Broodlords.
And this is the deviation that we were wondering about. He couldn't possibly go, for Swarm Hosts every single game. And I'm curious to see if Stats is actually going to be ready for this and how exactly he will respond.
Well, he just scouted that Hive, and the Hive isn't very far along, so that's a very important moment here for Stats. He has to decide now, do I try to kill Serral before he gets into Broodlord play? Or does he back up? Does he get Carriers or Tempests to deal with that in a longer game?
The Phoenix is coming in again. He might try to clip off a few more drones. And I got to say, man, this is really becoming a lot of worker kills. This is way more than we had in previous games, and that's pretty scary. So 22 drones total have been killed off. Now, he lost 3 Phoenixes, but that's fine. Okay, I mean, really, the idea here is that every time you kill a drone, they have to remake it. If they're remaking a drone, then they're not making an attacking unit.
Absolutely.
And if you killed off a bunch of drones and they didn't remake them, then they would just be slowed down overall. So this is a very common technique to try to punish Zerg players, is you come in there and try to eliminate work. While you're building an army as a Protoss player, they're just trying to reform their economy.
Well, Serral is keeping on his path at least, right? He's got that Greater Spire started now. He's continuing his upgrades for his Zerglings and Banelings, and as well as those Hydras. His army is, I mean, it's pretty good, but Stats is moving out before that Broodlord tech comes into play.
Pretty even in supply, and with the Broodlord tech actually as far away as you were saying, Artosis, I'm worried that there might be an opportunity here to punish, but Serral does come with a little counterattack here. Can he get the denial on this Nexus? If he could, that would be huge, but Stats is ready.
Oh, is he ready for these Banelings with speed? Okay, nice handling right there by Stats, but Serral, of course, sending out another little counterattack. Banelings headed certainly towards one of his expansions.
The name of the game for Serral is to try to buy time, and with this counterattack, is Stats going to notice he's evacuating these probes, and they do not connect.
Those Banelings, they don't get as much damage as he was really looking for. That's okay, though. It's not the biggest investment, but that Greater Spire, it is on the way. It's going to finish up. 5 Corruptors ready. 5 Broodlords would change the course of the upcoming battle.
That's absolutely right. We see those Broodlords coming up here. Now, one way to play against the Broodlords, you can do it a little bit like you would against Swarmhouse. Sometimes you just avoid actually engaging them and then try to attack them elsewhere. Broodlords are not fast units. In fact, they're frankly quite slow. So that's one way that you can try to exploit a player who is going for that kind of tech.
Well, just look at this. Serral is keeping Stats so busy with these Lings, with these Banes. Serral doesn't really care how much damage they do as long as it slows down the attack and buys time for these Broodlords, and that is exactly what it's done. Broodlords are out right now, and Stats does not have a strong counter to them.
Okay, with these Broodlords out, I'm not sure how Stats can really address this. We do see a fleet beacon being made, but of course, getting into that tech, that's going to be a little while, Artosis.
Yeah, he might have to go into Tempest or something like that, which is not the way that a Protoss wants to play. You want to get into mass carriers, but, you have to do what you can do to make sure the Broodlords do not punish you for your lack of tech.
Oh, and we might have a big counterattack here. We see an Enforce coming down here over in the center right. These Hydras are doing a lot of damage. These Archons are not going to be enough. Meanwhile, Stats is going to try to push into the heart of Serral's base.
Oh, Serral with such good positioning on those Broodlords. The Archons cannot reach them when they're over that terrain. In the meantime, the Lingbane Hydra moving in, eradicating these Zealots, going after these Archons as well.
The recall goes back to try to defend, and Serral immediately evacuates. Serral doing a brilliant job of controlling where Stats is on the map.
Oh, is it time for Serral to push yet, or is he going to fall back defensively with these Broodlords? That's the question to answer right now. It looks like the Broodlords are going back for the time being, and that will give Stats time to get out his Tempests.
One thing to note, though, is the way that Serral's played this, he doesn't have a lot of expansions. You basically halt developing on the map to try to get this tech out here, and Stats is really sitting on a pretty good economy.
Yeah, he definitely has a lot of bases right now. The Banelings didn't do that much damage to his economy. He's got a lot of High Templars. He's got harassment going out on the map, and now he has Tempest. Stats has gotten himself into a sweet position.
Okay, the Warp Prism, is it going to be taken out? That's actually pretty big. Takes that out. The Warp Prism is basically used in this situation to try to draw attention, pull Serral's screen somewhere else, and then you'll have another attack hit elsewhere. I mean, you have to have such high APM in this game, but you really actually can't be everywhere at once. So we see a lot of top players exploit that. So losing that Warp Prism, this puts Stats in an awkward spot.
Yeah, he does want another one out there to harass at least, right? But at the moment, he's playing a very defensive game. He's making sure that this base is up and mining. He's getting another Nexus to go down. He needs to keep his economy at least close to what Serral has if he's to hold on in the long term.
We're getting to the longest game that we've had so far. Stats is taking a 5th base at the bottom, but it looks like Serral is itching to try to come in here for some kind of counterattack. But so far, the movement here from Stats is looking pretty good.
Yeah, he's moving right up. It looks like this Lingbane Hydra shouldn't get too much done. Yeah, some good storms going down. Stats holds tight.
Can we get a shot of the bottom, actually? Is something hitting that Nexus? Okay, that's not enough. So he's going to keep that Nexus for a little bit longer. But I got to say, Stats, I like that he's pulled back. He's stayed off the map. He's just continuing to grow. When he realized that those Broodlords were there, and again, it takes a long time to move Broodlords across the map. He just went back and started gobbling up resources all over the map.
Well, right now, he's really just working on his air composition. Lots of Corruptors, lots of Broodlords. This is a scary combo, but if Stats continues to add in his big capital ships, Tempest, maybe Carriers, he has Archons underneath to defend them from the Corruptors, as well as Psystorms, he can battle toe-to-toe against this.
Okay, Stats is beginning to move out. And you got to be careful because these Tempest, when they hit you, there's not a lot of ways to respond or punish it, right?
He'll be one-shotting these Broodlords momentarily.
Yes. And now we're seeing such a high amount of Archons coming forward here.
Oh my God. That is a lot of Archons right now. 11 on the field with 4 Tempest upgrades going everywhere. There are a couple Vipers that have joined, so those definitely can change things if he doesn't get the feedbacks off right away.
Okay, another tag there with that Oracle. Now he's actually hit the Broodlords. This is going to be very annoying for Serral. As you can see, the Tempest can then fire into this location, and there's no real way for Serral to retaliate unless he tries to dive on top of this army.
Oh, and it looked like for a moment that he might. The Queen's coming forward, getting feedbacked, but Stats being very careful here. If either side loses their army, that is going to be terrible. They'll lose additional bases while they try to reinforce, and it's going to be very hard at that point to win the game.
So we're getting into super late game, and you can see actually with Serral, he's banked up a lot of minerals and a lot of gas, and the same is true for Stats, although Serral is slightly ahead. But when we have a huge engage and the armies finally collide, we want to see what they remake and how much they can actually remax out on.
Well, right now some Baneling harassment continuing. Gets a decent amount of probes there. Ooh, the Hydra Bane. Actually going towards that base and forcing a recall. That's actually kind of nice. The recall has a long cooldown, so to force that, you now know the capabilities of Protoss on the next time they can do it.
Okay, another attack over here. It looks like he's trying to find an opening, and he's going to be able to take out this Nexus. We don't see much to respond here with, but he immediately cancels. He decides to back off. I think realizing, wait a minute, there's nothing over here. I'm actually surprised Serral's being very cautious in this game, Artosis.
Well, he really wants to finish this. He's great at late game Zerg, and this is a very scary Protoss army. Now Stats getting over on creep. That can be dangerous. He's pushing forward, clearing out some of this creep, and Serral is actually abandoning the area.
Okay, Stats is pushing forward here, and Serral is actually pulling away. He might sack this expansion. We're seeing Serral play such a cautious game. He knows if there's one big fight that goes wrong on either side, the player's going to lose. So if he's not totally confident, he'll give up that spot and expand elsewhere.
Well, at least he's got some good counterattacks going down here as well, spreading out his Hydras. The Psystorms come down, but a lot of probes falling here for Stats.
Okay, Stats is going to back up. He's cleaned up that side of the map. Very nicely done here by Serral. This expansion is going to go down, although this is not the most valuable expansion on the map. You can see that most of the minerals were already mined out.
Well, he cloaks it, so I guess it's going to live. With the Carriers coming out, he will be able to push these Hydras back. So nice save there. In the meantime, Serral did lose 2 bases.
Okay, this could be bad. He gets it.
Oh, a beautiful abduct onto the mothership, and he picks it off for free.
Unreal. Yeah, that was out there exposed. So he comes in there, wipes that out, and Serral immediately scurries back. He's also expanding to the upper right. But Stats is almost starting to look like he's the Zerg in this game, Artosis. He has so many bases, hugging every corner here at the bottom.
He does, and his composition continues to get better. He's adding a lot of carriers, continuing those upgrades, remaking that mothership as well. And with this many Archons and Psystorms, it's hard for any Zerg to break through.
Okay, he's going for it. He's harpooning those carriers in here and taking them out. And it seems like Stats has decided he should take his fight elsewhere.
Oh my God, beautiful execution here from Serral, picking off so many Archons as well as some of these capital ships. And now it's Stats giving up bases.
I think that Serral can actually come over here and take this base out in the center right, correct? I mean, there's nothing over there. A good little counterattack here by Stats, doing a lot with a little. But meanwhile, a counter here from Stats, hitting this base on the far left.
Well, now this is how you abuse those Broodlords. They're very slow, hard for them to go defend. In the meantime, Zealots chasing those drones. Oh my God, the Corruptors even getting in on the fight. Serral gonna take down another Nexus.
Okay, can we go big picture here? Let's check how many minerals are at each base here. Let's start with the Protoss here. Okay, so that has plenty. He'll be mining from that for a while. Yep, there's no nexus there, but down here in the bottom left, okay, this has basically been untouched, so it's more like he has that position. Plenty of minerals over here, and does he have anything more? So that's going to dry up pretty quickly, and that's not going to last for too much longer.
They keep playing whack-a-mole with these expansions, so it's hard to say how that's going to go, but Serral does have a bigger bank than Stats. Oh my God! Serral just jumping on top of absolutely everything, picking up one carrier, another carrier goes down. It looks like he's going to maybe get all of them.
He's decided to commit. He's coming in here now, and I'm seeing these air units for Stats begin to go down. The mothership taking heavy fire, and this whole location is going to be given up here by Stats. We now have 194 supply to 141, and there's not a lot of gas in the bank here for Stats.
No, this is going to be really hard to come back from now for our Korean Protoss player. He's lost a huge amount of his air army. More Corruptors on the way as well. He's running back to defend his home base against this ground counterattack, and Stats has to be careful. Any unit he loses will not be replaced.
It's interesting to see that the center right and the center left of the map, both players have just given up on. They don't want to mess with that side of the map because both of them are having a hard time controlling it. We do see Stats here in the bottom left with a very mineral-rich expansion. He hasn't gotten all of his workers over there, but as this game goes on for a long time, that's going to be important. And the same can be said over here for Serral in the upper right. That base that he's taken over there, going to be very important.
The question right now becomes, how does Stats keep Serral busy? Because Serral's army absolutely can kill Stats, but if he overcommits into an area, Stats can hit a lot of different places at once. You see him walking around with different groups of units. Here goes a group of Zealots up to this base. Can he pick that one off?
Okay, he's going for these drones. The drones will have to be pulled away. If he can get the hatchery, that would be ideal. Meanwhile, we've got a huge attack headed down here to the bottom left, and Stats needs to keep this position.
Oh, a lot of banelings rolling in right now. Stats, most of his mining is here. Probes starting to fall. They're trying to run away. Oh, a beautiful baneling hit, and it looks like that Nexus is going to go down.
And with that Nexus gone, there's just not much else that Stats can do in the economy game. I love how Serral then escapes, heading north with the rest of his air army. Oh my God, these banes are going to come in here and start hitting these workers.
He kills quite a few there once again. Stats just down to 30 probes. Look at that, even burrowing banelings now. Serral is just incredible this game.
Serral, interestingly enough, is actually now expanding towards the bottom left. He wants to have this game be all about this corner of the map. This way he can attack the bottom left and also kind of defend the left center.
Yeah, it's a good strategy. Look at this. He keeps flying in here with this Corruptor Swarm. He's looking for that damage. The Lings, they counterattack into the bottom left. Stats can't keep it alive. His army is not big enough right now to defend every location.
I'm wondering if Stats needs to try to then expand over to the center right. Does he just give up this spot? Because it seems like Serral's really grown into this area. And keep in mind also with Stats making like carriers and Tempest, every time you lose that, it takes a long time to remake it. So every win that Serral has gives him a lot of time to capitalize his position on the map.
Well, right now Stats does have a decent air army once again, but I'm getting nervous for him because he needs Archons under it. He needs High Templars under it. So right now his singular focus is to rebuild his high-tech units so he can have a great engagement against Serral.
I guess the only other location that Stats could try to take is the one just, if we can move the screen down just slightly, there's actually a base there. And he looks like he could try to maybe expand there. Now, I don't know exactly what the game plan is here for Stats. It seems like he really has to wait and just keep trying to build up.
Yeah.
As Serral is becoming so rich, especially with minerals and gas.
He needs a really strong army to be able to take out Serral. And here Serral comes. This could be a game-ending engagement. No, he sends him back. But a beautiful abduct picks off a carrier that's so expensive for Stats to remake.
I love how he harpoons that, picks it off, and then flies away. And you can see on the production tab in the upper left, the carriers take a long time to make.
He is making them with every mineral that he can afford right now. Stats just going towards that elusive 200 supply. It's been a while since he's had an army that can actually fight toe-to-toe, but Serral slowly, methodically trying to tear Stats apart here.
Well, Serral doesn't have to do anything right away. If he sees an opening, he probably will act on it, but Stats is trying to build back up. And because he's so low on minerals and gas, and by the way, this is very similar to the game we saw Serral beat Rogue in, where Serral seems to have such a complicated understanding of how super late game goes, he knows how to trade efficiently all the way throughout.
Now, oh my god, the Broodlord's actually going for an attack right now. They're going to be able to pick off a huge amount of ground units. All the rest of the Immortals and the Archons over there should fall.
Now with these Broodlords coming in, this expansion is so important here for Stats. Stats cannot afford to lose this. He's not going to have any more minerals to mine from if he does.
Oh, I think this is going to force a fight right now. Stats flying over with his Golden Armada. He doesn't save the Nexus, but in the meantime, some harassment with the few Zealots that Stats has left.
It does appear that Serral should be able to clean the rest of this up, but it's just Stats here with this one base at the bottom center. Not a lot of minerals at that.
Oh, his Stats, this is really his last outpost right now. He has to keep it alive. Serral coming in from a flank. There are Psystorms under here. There are Archons under here. But some Ducks come out and instantly picking off 2 of the Tempests.
I really do feel like the walls are starting to close in here for Stats. You can see he's slowed down to a crawl here as he's trying to get out of the map, and Serral is basically staying back and looking for a moment to engage. He goes in there, he kills off a carrier, maybe an Archon, and then he flies away. And with the minerals and gas banked up, let's say that they have a huge fight and almost all of their armies are wiped out. Serral's going to be the guy that can remake everything. Stats is not.
It's very true. Stats needs to win a decisive fight against this army and then another decisive fight against the army he refills with. At that point, he has a real chance to take this game.
Some more warp-ins coming from Stats. Once you get this kind of an army, you're kind of stuck going for it. We see the Broodlords coming in. It's actually kind of insane how much damage he's done with these Broodlords. Some more Broodlords coming in here right now, doing some damage. And again, another snipe on the carrier.
A huge snipe right there. Every unit is so hard for him to remake here. He's buying Zealots at this point. That's not what you want with this main army. But Stats still keeping the hope alive. Carriers can be so efficient. Serral with a little counterattack over here, trying to do more than Stats can deal with.
And actually, that's going to get in another nuisance there. It seems like Stats is debating, should he take a fight? Should he try to hit this center left location? Meanwhile, Serral's already expanding to the top right.
Oh man, these Zerglings doing a lot over there as well, forcing him to warp in Zealots that again he cannot afford. But Stats is mining. He's trying to push back some of this creep and hopefully look for that good engagement.
Okay, Stats is going to go in the middle of the map. He's looking for a fight, and I think he's going to get it. We see these Broodlords now being hit. Some good dodging on those Psionic Storms from Serral. Is Serral going to try to come in here and fight this?
Really great micro here by Stats. Look at him rotate those High Templars around, getting those important Psystorms down on the Corruptors. That's what he's really afraid of.
But with these links coming in, he can take out the rest of these workers. Again, Stats is so low on economy, he needs to protect this expansion.
Okay, it kills 10 of his workers, but in the meantime, he is counterattacking. Looks like he might be able to take out this base. Will Serral go for a big fight? He's actually, picks off that mothership.
Beautiful snipe on the mothership. It's going to be a lot easier for Serral to engage when he decides it's that moment.
These carriers have such damage output you can really see, but look at that. Every time an Abduct goes off, he kills another carrier. 2 more fall. The Broodlord's starting to get picked off here as well, though.
He comes in once more. He can basically one-shot these carriers, and I don't think there's any solution here for Stats. He's going to come in. Serral overwhelming the air fleet of Stats.
And that is it.